Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Apptrepreneur Show. I am your host, Kevin, the Apptrepreneur, and it is an honor and privilege to have you here. This, at least, used to be your, bi-daily dose of technology, apps, and even a little bit of entertainment on the side. We've kind of had a slowed down schedule for personal reasons, but I did want to talk about this topic in particular and kind of get the ball rolling again on the show. Now then, today's topic, and we're only going to have one topic today. Normally, the way this format works is we would have multiple topics. Everyone would watch, you would comment, I would discuss in the middle of all this what's going on. And hey Darcy, how you doing? Kevin, most of my patch are voting no on Prop 22. Most already understand that this was put together by Uber and Lyft and see what they're doing. Interesting. Well, we're gonna, we're gonna discuss a letter. Anyway, sorry, Steve. It was just so good to see you. Anyway, the way the show would normally work is that I would do multiple topics. We would have comments. We would do a little Q&A, a little afterwards, all that jazz. However, today, we're going to do one topic. We're going to do one topic because I think this topic deserves its full attention. We're also doing something else that's a little unusual for this show. We are going to be reading the whole article. Now, we normally don't do this. I only like to take little bits and pieces, and then, we kind of I share my opinion, but I think this time it's worth reading the entire thing. And what that article was this opinion piece that showed up on TechCrunch. And it has a very grabbing headline. I'm a software engineer at Uber and I'm voting against Prop 22. Basically voting no against it. Now then, just to reiterate to everyone, in case you don't know what Prop 22 is, Prop 22, if passes, would allow drivers for gig platforms to remain independent, because they're not really independent, make their own hours, all that jazz. And if you vote no, then AB 5 kicks in, and Uber drivers might be limited by, hours after work. They might have to choose between platforms. Maybe. We've made videos talking about the pros and cons of both. We'll do the second part soon. And there's a lot of debate about whether or not this is what drivers should have. I think there's like a middle ground that if Uber and Lyft and all these companies were really interested, they could have come to a middle ground a long time ago, and we wouldn't be voting on this, but we are. So here's the thing. Uber and Lyft, I should say, has spent combined over $200 million trying to make sure Prop 22 passes. They really, really do not want this to fail. And that's why it's interesting that a software engineer at Uber is not only voting against Prop 22, but he's going so public about it. Now, let's get on to the article. And I think this guy's name is Kurt Nelson, which I have to say, good on you, Kurt, for writing this, because this is, you are probably going to get fired for this, if I'm being perfectly honest. You're going to get fired for writing this. But anyway, he writes, I've been a software engineer at Uber for 2 years, and I've also been a ride-hail driver. I regularly drove for Lyft in college, and while my day job involves writing code for the Uber Android app, I still make deliveries for app-based companies on my bike to understand the state of the gig economy. Now, this is actually a really interesting place to start, because not only did this guy used to drive for Lyft in college, he actually became an engineer for a gig company. So that's fascinating. That's kind of like the fry boy at McDonald's becoming the CEO of the company someday, or an executive or something like that. It's rare, but it's kind of cool when it happens. These experiences have made me realize a crucial factor in the gig economy. Uber works because it's cheap and it's quick. The instant gratification when we book a ride and a car shows up only minutes later gives us a sense of control, as does the star grade, I want to add. It's the most convenient thing in the world to go to your friend's house, the grocery store, or the airport at the click of a button. No arguing there. That's why I don't necessarily want the products to go away. Well, I didn't for a long time, but, we would definitely prefer these products stick around because it is that convenient, but, as we continue, we understand why things have to change. But it's become clear to me that this is only possible because countless drivers are spending their personal time sitting in their cars, waiting to pick up a ride completely unpaid. Workers are subsidizing the product with their free labor. Now that's actually kind of that's the big boom of the article, and I will come back to that because I want to articulate on that in great detail, but I want to finish the article first. I've decided to speak out against my employer because I know what it's like to work with no benefits. Before joining Uber, I worked a range of low-wage jobs from customer service at Disneyland to delivering pizza with no benefits. Well, Disneyland cast members do have benefits if they're full-time, so I'm assuming he wasn't full-time. Uber is one of several large companies bankrolling California's Proposition 22. They've now contributed $47.5 million to the campaign. At work, management tells us that passing Prop 22 is for the best because it is critical for the company's bottom line. I have no doubt. Yet a corporation's bottom line will not and should not influence my vote. Uber claims Prop 22 would be good for drivers, but that depends on Uber, the company, treating drivers better. I know from my experience working as an Uber engineer there is a slim chance of that happening. Well, as someone who's been commenting on Uber for 3 to 4 years, I can tell you, there is a hole in the logic that Uber would take care of their drivers that is so big you could fly a space shuttle through it. It seems less than slim of a chance happening. At the beginning of the pandemic, we learned Uber was about to embark on a round of layoffs. For weeks, we sat around not knowing if we'd keep our jobs and health insurance. Ultimately, the company laid off 3,500 employees in the middle of a pandemic, and they did it via a 3-minute Zoom call. Remember that? I sure do. I made a video about that. You can look it up. For many of us, the layoff seemed random and arbitrary, as if managers had been given a quota of people they should fire, not dissimilar to the way in which Uber deactivates drivers without recourse. The entrenched culture of not caring about workers had extended to engineers. We realize we too are a fungible source. As a software engineer, I have a very different experience working for Uber than drivers do. Being classified as an employee affords me benefits, including health care, a retirement plan, stock vesting, and the ability to take paid vacation and sick leave. Uber drivers are not afforded these benefits, since Uber misclassifies them as independent contractors. Since January 1st of this year, the law has been clear. Gig drivers should be classified as employees. Yet Uber refuses to obey the law and is now seeking to get Prop 22 passed so they can write a new set of rules for themselves. Honestly, I don't know why we're that surprised. I mean, Uber technically was an illegal taxi service that operated illegally for years, basically until it got so big that lawmakers gave up trying to regulate them and just said, okay, fine, screw it, you're legal. So I'm not surprised by this tactic, if you will. There's a misconception that all Uber drivers are part-time. Maybe they drive as a fun hobby in retirement or pick up a few hours after class in college as I did. These drivers exist, but the drivers who are essential to Uber's business are full-time drivers. A study commissioned by the city of San Francisco released in May found that 71% of the city's gig workers work at least 30 hours a week. It is these drivers who give the majority of the rides. California legally requires employers to provide benefits to all workers working at least 30 hours per week, so 71% of daily drivers are currently denied benefits required by the state. Were it not for my background as a Lyft driver, I would have accepted my employer's argument at face value. This was never about disrupting an industry. Their business model is the same as any other company's. cut costs no matter what in order to increase profits. I've been lucky to meet some of Uber's fantastic drivers while organizing with the advocacy organization Gig Workers Drivings. Awesome organization. Everybody knows about the high cost of living in San Francisco. These folks are often trying to make do on less than minimum wage. I've met drivers who have to sleep in their cars, risk financial ruin over a single doctor's appointment, or go without life-saving medication. There's no way around it. Uber's Prop 22 is a multi-million-dollar effort to deny these workers their rights. My message to other tech workers and to the public at large is this. Research ballot propositions on your own. When your employer tells you to vote for something because it's what's best for the company, consider that your employer's interests might not align with your own or with society's. To employees at Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, or other gig economy companies, get to know the drivers who use your product every day. In many ways, we have more in common with these workers than we do with the executives making millions from our labor. In November, you'll have a choice to either stand with other workers and vote no on Prop 22, or align yourself with executives and billionaires by voting yes. Stand with workers, vote no on Prop 22. Now then, the first thing about this article. Is this person an Uber engineer? Well, frankly, I don't know. A name is given. In fact, there's a Twitter handle given. Kurt Nelson. Let's go to Twitter and see if we can find Kirk Nelson, mobile engineer, Uber, and dabbler in local food and beverage production. He's taking his face off. Or is that just the? Okay, so this is what our Uber engineer looks like. Apparently, he's voting for Biden-Harris, but I don't need to write an op-ed on that, right? And so, we're just gonna have to take face value about this. He doesn't talk about his job much, but then, on the other hand, not a lot of us do, if we're being honest. A lot of us don't talk about our job. So this is Kurt Nelson. He's who wrote this article. We're going to assume he's a software engineer. What he wrote is true, I believe. I believe Prop 22 is for Uber, and it's for Lyft. I don't believe it has the driver's best interests at heart. I don't believe Uber and Lyft have their best interests at heart. And I really want to focus on this one little part of the article. Even though he elaborated in more detail, I think this is kind of important. But it's become clear to me that this is only possible because countless drivers are spending their personal time sitting in their cars, waiting to pick up a ride completely unpaid. Workers are subsidizing the product with their free labor. Now, I'm saying this for the end because I might want to cut this part out and turn it into its own video. You might remember how a few weeks ago, not a few weeks ago, it was like a couple months ago now, actually, at this point, where I went on a live stream with Uberman Tampa, Dark Road Run, Rideshare Dixie, and the Driver Sensei. And the Driver Sensei made the argument that the reason people still do Uber and Lyft is because of money. He made the example like, well, would I starve? Maybe I'd starve. Would I let my wife starve? I don't know. Would I let my kids starve? Heck no. So I will do what I have to put food on my kids' plates. I think it's always been a very striking thing that he uses that example as a reason to, not get rid or to vote yes on Prop 22 when I see that as an example of why you should vote no on Prop 22. Now, to also give you a little bit of framework where I am right now, I've been listening to videos as podcasts at work from a YouTuber called Illuminati. And Illuminati is a YouTuber who basically looks at corrupt corporations and CEOs and does a history on what makes the corporation corrupt and what makes the CEO corrupt and what sometimes leads to the fall for some of these CEOs. I'm going somewhere with this, so bear with me. One of the things that she frequently discusses are companies that are selling products like oil snake salesmen, like particularly health products, Like you have a woman selling something called Jilly Juice, who is selling a product, this juice, and she is claiming it will cure your diabetes, it will cure your cancer, it could regrow a limb. This is the secret to all health. When health experts, test it and they say this has way too much salt, you could actually have a stroke if you drink this stuff, and it's not good for you. Another example, people who sell alternatives to vaccines. This exists apparently. There are people out there who give away recipes online, who actually encourage people to drink bleach, and they say this will work better than a vaccination. And yeah, I know on the surface you're laughing. I'm getting to something. Hold on. And they actually encourage people like, yeah, don't get vaccinated because that might cause autism. But drink bleach. Drink this liquid that has this much amount of bleach in it because it has this ingredient and you can cure your autism. Now, most people looking at these situations would look at these situations and say that's wrong. And the government rightfully shuts these organizations down. And they shut these organizations down for a reason. Because they prey on desperate people and they're selling something that's dangerous. And you stop and think about, like, look, I could describe these situations and they sound totally ridiculous. Like, why on earth would you ever give your money to one of these wackos and do something so stupid and dangerous? Why would you ever do that? Like a functioning adult, like a thinking adult should be able to see that this is a scam. There's no miracle anything. And yet, what shocked me about these stories was how much money these products actually did in fact make. Because I did not anticipate the element of just how much desperate people there really are in the world. And these are people who look at this, they probably know in their heart it's not real. But here's the thing, they are so desperate to get better that they will try any sort of alternate medicine they can get their hands on. And what that medicine usually does is it makes the problem worse. In some cases, it kills them faster. Someone has an incurable sickness, they go to an alternative medicine specialist, buy a product, and it not only doesn't help them, it makes them die faster. And in their desperation to live a longer life, they have shortened their life. And this is the reason why we look at it and it's not okay. And the government does shut most of these people down when they can. Now then, with that said, let's look at the gig economy. It is true everyone has their different reasons for driving rideshare, but I've noticed increasingly, more and more increasingly, like Driver Sensei says, that people are desperate for money, especially right now. We're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic and there's not a lot of work. We're going to take the work where we can. I have taken on some work to help pay the bills because you know what? The pandemic has definitely affected, the Apptrepreneur empire, if you will. The sponsors are not spending as much money, and neither is YouTube clicks. So you know what? Hey, I got to do. Got a job. There you go. But here's the thing. There's not a lot of jobs out there. I am fortunate that I got a job. If I did not have a job, I probably would have turned back to Postmates to bring something in. The problem is I would be doing that knowing that in the long run, it would cost me more money to do Postmates than they'd be paying out. Some people don't even realize this much. They just need money. They need a job. They need to do something. And the barrier to entry for Uber, Lyft, Postmates, it's all very, very small. And so they sign up for it, and they start doing it. And they feel good for a little while because money is coming in. But what they're not seeing is, unless you're like keeping tabs on your miles and stuff, which you'd be surprised how many people don't do that, this is going to cost you a heck of a lot in taxes. They're really not paying you for the wear and tear on your vehicle. Your car will die faster. If you get sick, you have to take a few days off. And at that point, you've missed a paycheck and you are so screwed on that one. And people always end up losing in this game. They never win. And when you are one of the rare king of the 2K club people and you're fine, one day, I can't snap, but snap, you're deactivated. Lost your money. And Uber preys on these people. They prey on everyone. These drivers, they're like the classic oil snakes, snake oilsmen, where it's like, hey, come on here, you'll be your own boss, have your own business, you can make up to this much an hour, and they've always done it. And I think when you stop and you really realize that, and you look at the two side by side, the people selling the health supplements and lying about the fact that you will get better when they know you will not, and in fact it's dangerous, and you have the gig economy where they promise you will make money and you can be your own business when they know that in fact you will be consistently losing money. I don't see much of a difference personally. I find it strange that a lot of people look at the health wacko selling the Jilly Juice and saying that's wrong, you should go to jail because you're selling a dangerous product. And you look at the gig economy, it's like, well, the drivers know it, that's fine. Why is it fine? In both situations, adults are participating in the transactions. Willing adults are participating, whether they buy the Jilly Juice or whether they drive for Uber, losing money. But in both cases, one of the adults that are participating is desperate enough to do anything. Anything. I want to get better. So I don't care if the doctors say that the Jilly Juice might give me a stroke and shorten my life. I'm going to buy it. I don't care if it's going to lose me money in the long run. My kid's hungry. I got to do it. Meanwhile, in both situations, the people doing the sales pitch, they're making out like bandits, laughing all the way to the bank. And so, for those reasons, I have personally decided that I will definitely be voting no on Prop 22. You can vote on Prop 22 if you want. I'm not telling you what to do. You have to read the bill. You have to read the pros and cons. You have to come to your own decision on this one. I can't make that decision for you. But the more I look at Uber and Lyft, I've kind of just come to the conclusion, and I came to this conclusion a long time ago, but I really think you should consider that if what Uber and Lyft is doing is predatory by nature, and in fact, if anything is predatory by nature, then it probably either should not exist or it needs to change so that it's not predatory. Because for it to be predatory and for it to be knowingly predatory, that's just not humane in my opinion. That's not humane. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the topic. I would like to know what you think about it. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. But before we leave just yet, I'm going to read some of the comments because hey, we are doing it live, and this is why we do it live. It's nice to see Clean MPG here, Driver Steve, Ryan, Stephen H. And Driver Steve said, thank God for the Food and Drug Administration. Oh, yeah, no. I agree. And Stevie Kurtz here. I get a lot of Steves in here, I noticed. As the Witch Brew Cure-All, but for real sad stuff. Yep. Ryan says, I'm thankful that I still have a job and that I can still support you as a YouTuber. I'm thankful too, by the way. I'm glad that you have a job. I mean, never mind the membership, which, hey, I appreciate it, but not necessary. But I'm definitely glad you have a job still. Eric says, I just paid $1,100 for repairs and was told I'll need another $1,700 in repairs a few months from now. Happens. And Driver Steve says, Eric, next time buy a Toyota or a Lexus. Most reliable cars made next to zero repair bills. I agree with that. In fact, if you look at most taxis that are on the road, the vast majority of them are Toyotas. Toyotas, they're just built to last. I have my Corolla. It's 10 years old, over 200,000 miles, and it's still running great. Still running great. Now, granted, I will probably finally replace it next year, but it's still working. Jody says, I'll say vote no to Prop 22. It's all a big lie. It's all a big scam. And Eric says, my response is I'd rather deliver Denny's than package up weed again. And Jody says, it is just like the people that are saying if there's a vaccine today, they would take it because they can't keep living this anymore. Then we have the people theater saying it is too soon. Well, I mean, if the vaccination's safe, like if it's been rigorously tested, then okay, do it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I will probably wait at least 6 months after the vaccination comes out to kind of see how everyone else reacts first. Also, I have to talk to my doctor because, I had that Guillain-Barré when I was a kid, and that prevents me from getting a flu shot, so yay me, I might not be allowed to get this one either. Alright, so anyway, folks, that is the end of the comments, and again, we don't have any more topics today, but I did want to get the ball rolling again on the show. We will try to have another episode later this week. We will have multiple topics. Hey, if you're here in the live stream and haven't given a thumbs up yet, please do. It'd be really appreciated. And like, favorite, share, subscribe, and I will see you later.